auditorium and his kids receiving awards as well. And I start to notice something. There are a lot of the people that drop off parents that I've seen, right? And I think it's really cool because we recognize whether or not we've had conversations. No one's really trying to have a conversation at 7:45 in the morning most days, but we nod and acknowledge each other. But what I start to notice outside of the individuals that are just there that I recognize, but I recognize the handful of fathers that are there. And I know, and this is before I started the journey of working for and managing this program at Dads Matter, but I'm noticing the fathers in the room and we acknowledge each other, and it felt like a sense of community. And I know I grew up, I was that kid in the 11th grade when they asked, well, we all had to answer, what do you expect to be at 25? Project your life. The first sentence that I always wrote out was I was going to be a father. It was something that I wanted. The second thing was, and it would take me a lot longer to get to this point, is I would have to scrutinize at what type of job I would want that would allow me to be the father that I wanted to be. And the father that I wanted to be was never based up on material things, even though I want to give my kids material things. We live in Orange County, and it's a really, it's a high cost of living out here. So you have to make a certain amount of money. So I had to reach a certain level of professional competence so I could afford to provide my kids things. But the most important thing was I wanted to be a youth coach. I wanted to take my kids to school. I wanted, when I was in, and I'm not saying this because I want anybody to look at me and say, oh, this dude is special, because they're my kids. And I believe that's my job, to be there for my kids. But my son was born 2 weeks before I started grad school. And if you talk about the worst planning job in the history of planning, that was me. And during grad school, but it actually helped me out so much because during grad school, I took, my wife was naturally feeding when she started off, and Drew was waking up every few hours. And so I would take the midnight shift. Now, I took the midnight shift because the day that he was born, I immediately switched over from being a person who can function into the wee hours of the evening to a person who's a morning person. And so I took the midnight shift because I can study during that time. And so I would get up and I would feed him at midnight. He would go down, he would lay on my lap, I would keep him on my lap, and I would read, and I would have a laptop going. And that's the way I got through grad school. So my daughter was born 2 weeks before I finished grad school. Okay, so that was worse planning than planning for my son, because at one point I walked into a final and I think I was sleep deprived for about 36 hours, and I sat with a blue book in front of me, and for 2 hours I sat there, and that was my nap because I didn't turn in anything. So for all you guys who may be going back to grad school or anything like that, I got a C and still graduated. So woohoo! No one ever asked me to see that. But it's important that I share that because it's
not.
I feel that more fathers are like me than not. And when I say that, as Dads Matter, we have a philosophy that fathers are as vitally important to the parenting process as moms, and that's where we start with that premise. And I'm going to talk a little bit later about constructs that we've kind of shaped in our head, and maybe not from the people who are listening to my voice right now, but we are kind of systemically set up to put dads in a box and put moms in a box, and kind of go with that idea. So we're going to talk about that. I feel like it's important for us to start with that fathers care and fathers love their children just from the jump, because I'm one of these people that believe that all parents, and yes, there are outliers. When I say all, it's not an absolute, but parents have kids and they love their kids. It's a lack of resources that kind of put us in this position of going back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and they have needs that they have to meet. And sometimes there are other things that are going on, whether it's substance abuse, mental health, other issues that impact their ability to prioritize their children first. But the large majority of parents enter into this thing with the desire that their kids are going to be able to be loved and to feel loved and to become good problem solvers and have an opportunity to thrive. Things kind of get into the way of some of that, right? And so, am I flipping? Thank you.
Sure. Oh, sorry.
So, and we believe that when fathers are not just present but engaged, then there's some magic sauce that can happen. Anybody ever try flame broiler? Anybody ever try that? So I think they call it magic sauce, is that teriyaki stuff. That stuff is good. So I call this magic sauce when fathers can be involved. And it's not just fathers on their own, but when fathers can be, and I never consider anything equal, when you have two individuals giving 100%, if one person falls short, that child is still getting what they need, right? If two people are, if going out to do 50% and somebody comes short, then it's less than 100%, and that's not acceptable for me. So I'm always saying, give it everything you got. And but when fathers are involved, there are things that can happen. And because we're talking about preventing child abuse, then actually, you know what? Let's stay here for a second. I'll talk a little bit about the program. Before I even jump into that, Dads Matter, just as a quick infomercial, you know what our philosophy is. We believe that fathers are as vitally important to the parenting process. We are federally funded through September 2020. The OFA just came out, so we have an opportunity to keep this, to keep this baby going. It was the first time Children's Bureau has received a federally funded grant in the history of our agency, and we've been around since 1904. So we're really excited about that. We are the only fully intentioned fatherhood program that exists in Orange County, and we're really proud of that. We have two curricula that we use to support fathers. The first is supporting father involvement. It's authored by a couple of fantastic curriculum developers. It's two couples, the Cowans and the Pruitts. They've trained all of our facilitators on delivering this, and it's a 32-hour curriculum where it focuses on a very systemic, it's called a social working type of construct of looking at the relationships that impact fathers' ability to be connected with their children, right? Everything from the relationship with themselves and what the skills they bring into it, the relationship with the birth mom, which is vitally important. You spend so much time talking about co-parenting and what that looks like. Of course, the relationship with the father and their child and their children's child, or their kids or their children. The father with, and this is one of the things I'm most excited about this one, with their where they got their parenting views, where they got their views of what a father was. So we go 2 generations up when we look at this, and then we look at the father and their environment and some of the external things that can kind of get in the way of fathers being involved. We also have a second curriculum. It's an 8-hour curriculum. It's called Dads for Life, and it's really, we get a chance to work with fathers with developing some tangible skills. It's from the family wellness umbrella of curriculum. I have some pretty fantastic stuff, and it's more of a teaching skill-based curriculum. Both of our curriculum, we use male and female co-facilitators to lead our groups. And the reason why is because a lot of our fathers or participants come in have not had the opportunity to see what a partnership looks like. So there's no lead facilitator. There's no one who takes the front end, and when it's done well, I'll say one of the developers said, when at the end of that workshop, when it's done well, they should, the participants should wonder, were they a couple for real? Now, I'm not saying all that because I'm not trying to get into any HR stuff, but it's a really cool thing when it's a partnership, and our partnerships with our facilitators, we take very seriously. And it's not something that it's always going to be the highest level of synergy, but I really pride ourselves on, we have facilitator inventories and things like that, so they can work out issues in front of the group if need be. And that's important for people to see, because they have to understand that I don't always have to see eye to eye, but we have to get to a level of consensus to move forward. And we talk about the impact on children. And so that happens in all of our classes, which we're really excited about. A couple of supports that we're able to do, both of them are evidence-based curriculums. We offer case management support for our fathers. It's even when we're looking at like SFI as a curriculum, it's process oriented. You bring up a lot of history, a lot of in-depth emotional content. We talk about intimate partner violence. We talk about domestic, we talk about child abuse. We talk about parenting styles, and it brings on memories for people. People are triggered, right? And people need support, and we offer case management so we can offer that support, because one of the things that we stay away from is counseling, right? Even if our facilitators have a history, we have licensed clinical social workers, we have licensed psychotherapists in there. We have people of varying degrees of experience and expertise, but we ask them, when in that room, in that space, it's not intended for that. And if our families or fathers need support, then that's why the case managers are there. they can get them that support and get them that linkage. As supports, one of the things that we also
So
do
boring.
is we address the most immediate barriers that tend to impact fathers' ability to come into services. And that's right off the bat, you think about timing. So most of our classes, 90% of our classes take place after hours, traditional work hours. And so they start from 5:30 and they go until 8 o'clock. We offer, because we are asking people to come in during evening times, we offer full meals, which are really great. And when we do meals like we're sitting in this room right now. And so everybody eats together. We get a chance to start to build that rapport and camaraderie, which we have discovered over the years. And I forgot to mention, we started in 2000. We actually went live with services in July of 2016. But we start that rapport building because when we get to some of those tough topics, we can have that familiarity and that comfort to go there in that space. They're not topics that we discuss that men typically, and I'm looking, you say, Roger? We typically don't have those conversations, Roger, with other men just in groups, right? When we are together, what do we usually talk about as men? I'm putting you on the spot, I'm sorry.
You are. Sports,
Here, Roger.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
We need to talk into this.
And Roger for you online, Roger's the only other male in the room. So.
And I'm kind of used to it because I'm the only male part for Riverside County. So, but yeah, I guess you can say that depending on what the subject is, like sports or cars or something that shows the masculinity,
Yeah.
I guess, you
Yeah.
know.
Right. I was listening to a comedian. He said, men have two laughs. You have the one where things are really funny, and I'm not going to demonstrate it right now, but I'm going to demonstrate the second one. And you have one when a woman is walking by and you want to look cool. And so the other one is like, ha, 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 ha. And it's trying to save face. It's, doing the macho thing. And we do that when we're together. I don't know what it is why we have to wear that mask when we're around each other. But in this environment that we've been able to create, and actually, I won't even say, I'm not going to take credit for creating it. We just created the space, and the fathers have done all the work in order to do that, right? We get to some places that I've never seen entered outside of these types of groups. So the fact that fathers are coming into your sites, I'm excited about that. It makes me feel good. The world that we're leaving our children, there are a lot of things that are going on, but this is something that actually needs to happen to move the needle. A couple, and I'll wrap up with this about the services that we offer. Not just case management, we also do what we call a bonding day, where we bring in activities like cooking classes, hiking, we do sports clinics, we do a little bit of everything. We do some art and projects types of things, and we bring in, well, first we do it like we invite fathers to bring their kids, and sometimes moms will join them. We don't always invite moms right off the bat, right? It's like condiments at a restaurant. If you don't ask for the mustard and the ranch, they won't always give it to you. But if you ask, they will make it available. When moms come, we try to leave them with this message: let dad be hands-on today. Be there and just experience. Just be there and enjoy in the moment and enjoy in the day. Our activities are created because we want that hands-on experience from dad so they can kind of practice those skills and get used to it, but also so mom can take a step back and not always be overtaxed. I love moms, right? My mom was gold. If I had a runny nose, my mom would clean it up. If I had a runny nose, my dad would look at it and say, take care of that, man. What do you want? You like tasting that? He'd say something kind of crass and I'd get all embarrassed. Is one better than the other? Not at all. And actually, I would say that both of them are necessary for me to find my way, right? And so that's what we try to do within our workshops. We try to help people find their way. And we have some pretty cool evidence-based strategies that can help them get there if they're interested. We're just asking for people to come in and be open to some dialogue. And we get to a cool place.
So can we just check, are there any questions?
Not so far.
Okay. I just want to make sure. Okay. Just wanted to see if there's any questions.
Gabby will field our questions for
Okay.
us.
All right. Perfect.
So because we're here to talk about preventing child abuse, and we have, everybody in this room is acutely aware that there's something going on over the last 45, 60 days around the world. It's the coronavirus, right? And it's pretty scary stuff. And so I wake up every morning before the roosters. And as I get older, I find that I need less sleep for some strange reason because I come from a family of nappers. Not that you need to know any of that. So it's bothering me that I'm not sleeping as much, but I feel good and I feel energized. So I get up and I just start reading some of the news, and I read about coronavirus and its impact, and it's coming to the U.S. But then I think there's another epidemic that's coming on, right? Or that's been here. And that epidemic is
It is.
father absence. And that's huge. And how that impacts this conversation of child abuse is, let's see, that when a child is raised in a father absent home, he or she is affected in so many different ways, including they are 4 times at greater risk of living in poverty.
Let me know that
And we know some of the outcomes associated with families living in poverty. Teen pregnancy, 7 times more likely to become pregnant as a 2 times greater risk of infertility, more likely to face abuse and neglect.
And I said, of course.
What happens when a father is absent from the home? You can read all these statistics. It was a census report. This was 2017. Not sure exactly what it looks like 3 years later in 2020. But what I can tell you that is when you remove a vital part of a household, and being a vital part of a household doesn't mean they have to be in a romantic relationship. But when you remove a vital part of a household, that means that family is now resource deficient. And it makes it harder.
Because I
Doesn't
know
make it impossible. Does not make it impossible. I don't want anyone to walk away and say that if father's not there, then have kids are going to become true. Kids are going to become serial killers or anything like that. I'm just saying what I tell fathers all the time. If we told you that when you are present and you are giving your energies towards the overall well-being and health of your children, that increases opportunities for your kids to thrive and be successful.
And so what I'm going to tell my volunteers is that,
and when you're not there, it increases the probability that your kids are going to be challenged in
out
some
of respect to the
areas.
fact
Not saying that they can't overcome those
if they
challenges.
have it on their
I'm a
phone,
big fan of overcoming
look at
adversity.
their phone and
right?
make a note of the fact that they
You experience
registered.
adversity
If somebody
and
comes
it
and
makes
they
you
don't
stop
have a
in your
ticket,
tracks and you never
we
move
don't
again.
plan to turn it in.
That would be one of the saddest stories. Part of some of the things that we've experienced in media from movies and things like that are some of the best stories of someone, how they overcame adversity. I'm saying that children who grew up in a single parent household, kids who grew up in a household without their father, it is a crisis, and it is something to celebrate when they are able to overcome that adversity, because it is not something that they didn't ask to come into this world and be under those conditions, and they didn't deserve that. Now, there are a variety of reasons why it can be a father absence home. Not all of them are negative. You can have a father who's serving his country. That's gone, right? You can have various things, but it's still an impact to the child. And again, these numbers, they just reflect father absent homes. We haven't even begun to quantify the impact of father engagement in homes. But I will say this, our program is designed for fathers who are invested in their families, fathers that we talked about, like the majority of fathers who love their kids, fathers who are in the house but have a different view of what their roles and responsibilities could be. That's where we feel like our program has an opportunity to be really impactful. Like me, when my son was as a first grader, I had all the energies and well intentions of being a great father. I was there. I couldn't wait to coach. I tried to help with homework, and homework was even hard in the first grade. I'm a social worker, so but it was difficult because there were certain things that were ingrained in me that I didn't understand. So we're doing homework with a first grader, and I find myself getting irritated. I find myself, he doesn't get it. Why doesn't he get it? The basic knowledge of child development, things like that, that now I'm setting my expectation is he should be reading this because we just went over this. And me being exasperated and looking at my wife pleading for help, and she's looking at me like, I don't know. And we are 2 college educated individuals who read all these books, who planned, not well, but we planned to have children. We spent time with each other, and we were still struggling as parents. Now, I think I'm going to somewhat struggle as a parent for the rest of my life because every day is something different. My kids are changing. I constantly need to be in this mode of how do I adjust, right? What I did a year ago doesn't work and is not as effective as today. So I can't ever kind of sleep on my game as being a parent. But it's really, when you're looking at this, it's really impactful to have these types of services because people believe, and I'll talk about this a little bit later when we do some gender stuff, people believe that, motherhood is something that is innate, that you just have that nurturing and dads have to learn it. Even if that's the case, which I don't know how true that is, even if that's the case, then who's teaching it to us? And I felt like being in the hospital with my son, walking out and the nurses, they're born in Hoag Hospital, and the Hoag Hospital is one of the hospitals, and this was 13 years ago, that believe that attachment starts immediately, coming out. So you need to do some skin to skin stuff. And so they walked out of the room as soon as they cleaned up my baby and did the Apgars and stuff like that. They walked out of the room and was just like, here. And we're just like, what do we do? It's like, figure it out. And then the next day they were saying, go home. And we're just like, can we get a nurse to come home with us? Because my wife didn't want I hope my mom never sees this, but my wife didn't want my mom coming to stay with us. But we had to figure it out. And I'm glad that I had her because we would have some fun stuff with some diapers. But let's go to slide 3. There are some things the audience in the room is all on board with it. You guys are here. You guys are living the life about providing the services to fathers. But how do we get there? What are the barriers that exist? And so, some of the barriers I mentioned, time of service. If you work at an agency and that provides services from 9 to 5, that's kind of hard for any working parent. I had a dentist that worked that only was open from 9 to 5. It was a great dentist. I had root canals. I had the teeth of George Washington. It's terrible. So I've had a lot of work done, but this dentist could do work and I would experience no pain. I loved him, but I could never get there because I had to take off time, to go to work. And I didn't want to use up my time to be in the dentist's office. If we are providing services and it's only a 9 to 5, then it's a disservice to the parents at work. And typically it's the ones that are impacted the most are fathers. So offering times when it's where you have the ability to serve them, right? Having the expectation. A lot of times, even if we're looking at our intake paper and stuff like that, we get things completed and it's only from one parent, and we're fine with that, and it's not always even a question of, is there, if we're talking with mom, because typically, it's a disproportionate number of moms that come in as opposed to dad. Did I say that reverse? But you know what I mean? And so when moms are coming in and we get the information for the family, we don't get father's information. I work when I'm not doing Dad's Matter. I also, for Children's Bureau, I supervise the mental health interns for a school district. And so we're doing intakes, we're doing parent questionnaires. I don't know how many times we have one of our social work interns come in with a parent questionnaire and it's only from one of the parents. And I'm thinking, another parent sees a whole different side of that child and we're missing that. And 8 out of 10 of the parent questionnaires that we get are from the moms. One, because that's the number that the school district has at the top, because that's the one that came and signed the child in. Dad may have a secondary number, but we don't typically get to that number because we get the information that we need to move on, and we continue to perpetuate this cycle of excluding that. And when you don't make sure that you include someone in that conversation, what do you think the message is to that person? That they don't matter. Your input is not necessary for us to do what we need to do. It's a two-way street.
So I just want to pause there and talk about the strategies that you use to engage those missing partners. Do you have any feedback or suggestions?
Yeah, one is I'm really big on being intentional too. And the being intentional, what that looks like is asking or making it necessary. Maybe you don't move to the next step without that person's presence. and basic invitation. I'm going to talk a little bit later on exactly what that looks like. We're going to have activity where you get a chance to devise some strategies on how to invite fathers to participate. We will say over the last 4 years of running programs, there are some things that we've found out and we stumbled upon, some anecdotally, some by experience. In general, fathers are utility based. So we need to see a need, what's in it for them, right? And so approaching it to say, I'm going to teach you this is the easiest way to have them turn around and be like, deuces, right? And so another thing that we found out in that engagement is if you send mom to be the deliverer of the news that, hey, it's required for you to be here, it comes, you're nodding your head right there. Why are you nodding your head? Because you have a microphone? I need to hear this. Yeah.
No, I was just nodding my head because it's typically not received that great.
Why not?
Well, my husband doesn't like when I'm trying to tell him that he needs to do something different if he already has the mindset that it should be done this way. So if I'm the one delivering that information to him, it's probably not going to be taken in very well. Versus if you were to tell him, he'd be like, oh yeah, for sure.
Thank you. Boom. You should have just dropped the mic. Drop the mic. No. It is very true. Mom's coming home and saying, hey, there's a parenting class. I really think you should be there. Father hears, you suck at your job at being a parent. You're not doing what you're supposed to do. You need to go and get better at it. And they don't come in. Or even if they do come in, they come in and their arms are folded. Counting the time. You said you have food? Where's the food? Okay. I got my food. I'm gonna be on my phone. But our thing, one of the reasons we came up with the program named Dads Matters, we need to get them in the door, right? And if we can get them in the door, we are pretty confident that we can show them what this is about, and it's not a place where they're going to be told what they need to do. So those are just a couple of things. You're welcome. Thank you. But bias, we were talking about some of these. Barriers. I talked about timing. When I first came into the room earlier around the table talk, I believe it was Kimberly said that she was at a presentation and someone said, what's wrong with this room? And he was really loud and everyone couldn't figure out what was going on, what he was talking about. And he said, I'm the only guy that's in here. And this is the conversation that's supposed to be impacting, men and fathers, but I'm the only one that's in here. That a barrier, and it is what it is. I'm going to try to shoot it straight today. Probably a poor reference. Sorry about that. But I'm going to say it like it is. When I was in grad school, or actually I'll even go back and probably tell myself a little bit. I took Psych 101 because it was a lecture class, and it was a lecture class that had 150 people. And out of the 150 people, 140 of them were women. And I thought, man, what a great way to go and meet somebody. I like my chances. I got issues. So at that point, and it didn't work out to me. I was really quirky and gangly. But over the course of continuing to say, hey, I really like some of the principles and theories behind this stuff, I get into grad school, and I'm at University of Southern California, and in my cohort of 90, there were 6 guys. And so I go into agencies, and agencies, I would be the guy who had to change the water bottle. Because Roger's laughing. He's putting his hand up because there were no other guys that were there except for the executive director.
There's 6 of us.
Yeah.
Roger's laughing because he's the only guy in our unit. There's 6 parent partners in Riverside County, 5 are girls, and he's the only guy. So that's why everything you're saying, I'm sure it's just him.
So that's like real, it's real life. Now, it's not, this is the thing, we all have, the big word up there is bias, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And where that comes in place, we all have our biases and stereotypes and things that we believe, and a lot of it is unconscious. I believe Strategies 2.0 has a pretty great training on it that I hope to attend soon. And the way unconscious bias works is it impacts, it influences the way that you go out and do business, or the way that you interact with people. So if I don't, as a person, don't believe that dads are maternal, then I'm not going to position and make offers for them to participate in things that I believe that are going to turn them off. I'm making a decision for them, right? Another thing about a barrier being the fact that we're gender heavy, it doesn't look like who they want to necessarily listen to, is that it's hard to be told. You know, you hear this about single moms. How do you raise a man to be a man when you're not a man? And it is possible. It's possible to serve men having an all female staff. It just has to be entered into that space, you know, with a different mindset. And that's the important thing. But on the natural, if we just talked about it, when you walk into a space and you're going for parenting help, fathers again are very they think about utility. So what's in it for me? If not done in the right way, it's very humbling and in a really hard way to have someone tell you how to be a father that could never walk couldn't walk in your shoes in the same way. And that's a hard thing for some men. So if you don't enter into that space in a certain way, really extending that respect and that acknowledgement, like, yo, you showed up today. That automatically, the fact that you show up, whether or not you're mandated or not, you showed up. Because even if you're mandated, you don't have to show up. We have a ton of people who deal with the consequences, right? The fact that you show up in acknowledgement that they care is a place that offers that olive branch to say, now we can have some of this conversation. And now all of a sudden I removed this. And for those of you online, I just took an imaginary wall. So I'm doing my mime thing. I moved it out the way. And now we can have a conversation. I'm open, I'm primed to hear some of these things, right? So when we think about bias, I want to think about some of the images that we see in our daily lives, because I want you to apply this to going back to your agency. What are the messages that you communicate with your branding, right? So there's a man Colin. So I can't remember Colin's last name. I'm blanking, my bad. But we'll see right here. We're going to talk about some men's images of manhood, fatherhood that are represented in movies. It's about a 5-minute clip. Colin Stokes, sorry.
We're gonna cue it up.
Cool. So that's being queued up. There's some pretty good YouTube clips that you can find on fatherhood represented in TV, and just the journey of fatherhood from Leave It to Beaver to Family Ties, The Cosby Show, to Married with Children, The Simpsons, Breaking Bad. We happen to be in a good place in terms of moving the needle with shows like, I'm not sure if anybody's ever seen This Is Us.
Yeah.
This Is Us does a fantastic job of showing the impact of fatherhood, just being parents, and how it has, longitudinal impacts on their kids and their families. And I think it does a great job with that.
Oh, okay. Is your volume up?
I turned it on.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the wrong one. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Yes, I'll put that in the bottom. There was it's a hyperlink. It's a different. Yeah.
So she's queuing it up.
So as Lydia is queuing up the video, Shanti, you mentioned that this program is federally funded and it ends in September of 2020.
Yes, ma'am.
And can you share with us what that means? What happens after 2020?
September 2020, we will officially complete this cycle. September 29th, a very random, strange day, but for federal fiscal years, for those of you on federal grants, probably familiar with it. So in April, an OFA, so it's been announced that there's going to be another funding opportunity. So we will go through a little bit of a redesign, and we will hope to be able to continue business. So the hope is by September 30th, we will know that we are continuing to offer these services, and it's going to look a little bit different. There have been 3 iterations of this cycle through the OFA, Office of Family Assistance. they have a special division called HMRF, which is Healthy Marriage, Responsible Fatherhood, the New Pathways funding. And every year they've added something different. It was originally, I think it's safe to say that the idea of father involvement came about because if you're looking at child support, there was a huge issue, and there was a lot of money that's in the rears.
So it looks like.
We have a question from the online community. Gabriella. And you.
So from Tracy, media is so powerful and you rarely see non-whites in loving relationship with children. That's very lacking.
Absolutely. Thank you for that comment. That's exactly what we're talking about. And when Colin Stokes is going to share, and he has a great TED talk on that exact thing, is what messages are we communicating to children in terms of relationships. He will go into and he will talk about how fathers are depicted as, heroes. And once they become a hero, that's when all of a sudden, if there's going to be a connection, that's where the connection happens. So what, I have to fly around in cape and tights in order to have a connection with my kids, right? The relationship, and he talks about some statistics, even the ones that are up there. It's statistics that show that these heroes typically aren't in loving relationships with the birth mom. Now, we know that for the best outcomes, if you can be in a healthy relationship, romantic relationship, that is best case scenario. If it's not a romantic relationship where you live in under the same household, then the next best case scenario is a healthy relationship. So co-parenting, what does co-parenting look like? A lot of people don't always, we have fathers who come in who are in a place of, they're in a place of deficit with their child's mom, and they're trying to figure how to navigate this, and they swear, I don't say anything bad about her in front of the kids. But again, when you talk about bias and you have these negative thoughts, it does impact and influence the way that you operate. And kids are really perceptive. Kids are intuitive, and they know when their parents aren't getting, or when they aren't getting along. They understand that, they feel it, and when they feel it, they go to school. And you have a kid who's more withdrawn. You have a kid who may be a little bit more aggressive or assertive. You have a kid who doesn't concentrate when they should be concentrating on the task at hand. Thus, you have some academic issues. You have things that mirror symptoms of ADHD, because some of the trauma that kids are experiencing, they're trying to just balance this, this relationship between their parents. You have parentified minors. And so we tell fathers, it's okay, that it's great that you are making the effort not to.
Sorry.
Oh, it's good. That you're making the effort not to demean the other most important person in their life, but you're also not showing any compassion and care for that other most important person in life.
Do you feel like we're ready to jump in to our video? And before I do, I just want to check in with the room here. Any comments or questions before we start? And I could see Roger, your head going up and down, and he's wondering, why can't we have Dads Matter in Riverside, and all of us, And I just, a quick question before we start. So you're federally funded to do with these funds. Are you in connection with your other colleagues throughout the nation who are getting similar funding for this?
Total 45 fatherhood grantees around the country, and we come
Okay.
together a couple times a year for a variety of purposes. In LA County, I believe it's what's that, Project Fatherhood. Long Beach has a program. I believe the city of Glendale has a fatherhood program that works with incarcerated fathers.
Okay. Any other? San Bernardino does?
We probably should get the video because there's people who are gonna watch it.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, we're going to start watching the video.
Remember.
So the question is, what did you guys think?
From Debbie Comstock, San Diego had some programs for military dads.
Nice. Yeah, I remember the YMCA from San Diego. I can't remember which branch. Also was one of the grantees. They did good work. So the idea of, if those are the messages that we are communicating to kids and to society. And we focused on movies there, but it's not just in movies, it's in advertising, it's in television, and it's been pretty much ingrained in the way that we go about our lives. We start to, set up constructs of how people are and what they can do. And that traditionally has not really served as well in improving family outcomes overall, because we're typically only working with one half of the family, right? And when you're working with one half of the family, I know this. You ever play the telephone game? If I started with a sentence and shared it one more time, what's your name?
Cecilia.
With Cecilia, and it went all the way around to Lisa, that message is going to change. And we say a lot in our workshops, all of our workshops, all the work that we do. And if we're asking for one parent to go back and disseminate that information to their partner, it's going to be some things that are going to be lost in translation. And so when you're talking about overall outcomes, yes, we will still, and I'm not saying that any program is not doing good work, because we all do very necessary work. I'm just in this place where there are always things that we can even do to a higher degree. Because even as a fatherhood program, we also have opportunities to do some cohorts where their fathers are able to bring their partners. Those are my favorite, because then we have both people there. We have the parents, the co-parents, whatever they are, raising the kid together, getting the same information. They can problem solve on the fly. I don't want fathers going back and going to their wives and misinterpreting the information that they received and saying, you did this, or I'm not allowed to do that. I don't think that serves anybody's purpose well, right? So we're always looking for ways to make it impactful and dynamic, where families can grow and heal and strengthen together. So staying on this theme of stereotypes and biases, we talked about, I said I would get back to some gender things. Would you mind? I want you guys to take a quiz. Everyone have a smartphone? Okay. And we can all take this together if you want. There is a gender bias quiz where sociologists, the lies that we believe can uncover our subconscious, motivations. Okay.
Hi, everyone. This is Natalie. I emailed all of the participants this morning with a link to the quiz in the body of the email. So hopefully you have it in your inbox. It would have been the email address you used to sign up for today. Thank you.
I'm sending it.
Okay, we give a second for everyone to go. I've done this on my own, so you won't receive a whole bunch of crazy ads later on. Little disclaimer, this is not a scientific quiz or not. So the results, just use it for conversation, right? If you don't get the results that you want, please do not walk away with your head down. Just use it for a conversation. All right, everyone take 2 minutes and let's complete this. Go false. I'm gonna go with my original answers. Go true. False. 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 True. False. False. That's absolutely false. As you guys can see, I have issues. So it says, I displayed a high level of gender bias. I am incredibly influenced by gender assumptions and stereotypes that are so pervasive in our society that I tend to believe that stereotypes exist for a reason. You know, it's funny because when I was writing some of my notes, I did put in there a statement that said, some stereotypes are true. You know, like for me, I love, like, I will go and eat at a shack, you know, before I go and eat at a really nice restaurant, because I believe that shacks have the best street tacos, the best chili dogs. And I will walk up to a place and look, and if it looks a little bit too clean, like they haven't been in there working, then for my money, I want something greasy that's going to give me some, I'm going to need some Tums later on. So, yes. So my question to you guys, everyone who took it, if anybody be so inclined to share, anybody surprised with the results? Or anybody get exactly what they thought they would get?
From Tracy, my results, you displayed an extremely low level on gender bias.
Nice. Good work. Tell her I may need to consult with her later on. I need some support.
That's Tracy from Best Start Podcast.
Ah.
Is that on? Is it green?
Yep.
Okay.
I got a high level bias, but I think we learn since childhood. And as mothers, sometimes we complain about the macho thing, machismo everywhere, but we taught our children to be machist. You know, we thought that you don't clean, let your sister to clean. You are a man, go to sports. You don't go to theater, you don't go to whatever it is. So it's something taught.
Nice.
Sorry. I think also when we look at this through a culturally proficient lens, we all learn about gender roles in our different cultures and what that means. So by confronting this, we're actually asking people to change their cultural beliefs, which can be extremely difficult.
Right.
And so that internal work can really be difficult to do sometimes when it's going against what we have really known sometimes our whole entire lives.
Thank you. Oh, sorry.
From Tracy, she just wanted you to know that she's, I'm from Children's Bureau as well, but you have to drive to the AV.
It's a long drive, man. Hey, Cecilia, thank you for sharing that. And Lydia supporting that with making sure that we remain mindful of the cultural lens that we need to apply on there. A lot of, I would say for the Dads Matter classes, we service close to 80% Hispanic males. And so we deal with a lot of culture in there. And so when we're talking about ideas of parenting, you know, it's, I have a friend, Leslie Hillenbrand, that just authored a curriculum called Put Down the Chancla. Actually, it's and so we get a lot of folks, and what I try to do is positively confront, you know, when people say this is what we're going to do, and when I have kids, or this is what I'm going to do with my kids, I'm not going to tell them that it's wrong. I'll tell them what the law says they can and can't do, and I'll ask them this simple question: what do you want your child to feel? You know, what do you think the conversation is going to be later on? And sometimes they'll say, it's more important for me to know that my child is going to be able to be safe. And that's the reason why. Whether or not I agree with it or not, I'm going to share what the law says, and we're going to try to get to a place to where you're able to parent based upon your values. Now, sometimes we have to re-examine our values and see how they fit into this world, because from a generational perspective and also from a cultural perspective, those values can shift and change, and they're not always as static as we think they are. They can be fluid, and so we try to make sure that we communicate those things. But I'm never going to tell a father, you're wrong, you're bad. One, that's something that, again, in thinking about the bias and the stereotype, we have fathers and participants who are walking in expecting to be told, you have to fit into this box, you have to conform. And as soon as you start to fit into, we talk about confirmation bias, and I start supporting what they believe that they're going to receive, they disengage and they're lost to follow up, and we get no work with them. What we try to create is an environment where we can have open dialogue, where people can have respectful conversations, where we express our opinions. And when we do that, I feel we end up in a much better place. Staying on the topic of bias, thank you for everyone for participating in that was able to. For me, I find it a lot of fun. And I thought about cheating because I took it before coming in here and I knew what it was going to be. So I was going to get all the right answers so I can look better, but nah, I'm good. But want to sit on implicit bias. So for one, the definition of bias is prejudice in favor of or against one thing, person, or group compared with another. It's usually in a way that's considered to be unfair. Implicit bias, also known as social cognition, it refers to the attitudes or stereotypes that affect our understanding, actions, and decisions on unconscious matters. So examples in parenting, fathers don't connect with children the way mothers do. We ever thought that? If you haven't, you know somebody who has. Women are often imagined, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier, to have them maternal instincts. It's this innate skill that women have to be moms, and all little girls are supposed to want to be moms and connect with their children. It's loaded with a bunch of instructions for fathers. You're a dad now, it's exciting, and all these parts are new. But research says that there are hormonal changes, including drops in testosterone, that happen when their partners are pregnant, and this change in testosterone levels, it possibly could reflect a shift from competitive mate seeking to the more nurturing posture, right? If you ask my wife, I was the more maternal one, of the two of us. I have a friend, and I think fathers, again, in keeping that that mask of masculinity, oftentimes, there's certain things that, as Cecilia mentioned, there's certain things that's women's work and certain things that are guys' work. In my house, we started off, and again, I am so far from being the perfect father. I started off when my kids are 11 and 9 at the time, and it's time to start doing chores. You're doing your laundry. Both of them have to do their own laundry. Somebody was going to do the dishes. Somebody was going to do the trash. So guess who had to do the trash? My son, right? Daughter was on dishes. My daughter hated the dishes, and my son does not like germs at all. And this went on for a year with both of them doing a horrible job, meaning that my wife and I were still doing the chores because they didn't do it well. And finally, my daughter, who I love because she uses her voice, she says, I really don't like this, Dad. And I was like, what would you like to do? Would you like to do trash or would you like to do toilets? And she said, trash, easy. And so she's on trash and my son switched off to doing dishes. And it's been like that. Now my son just doesn't, I think his thought process is, if I do a bad job at all these things, then my parents will take over and do them. So he's still doing a bad job at dishes, which means I'm still on dish duty. But let's see. Here's another one of those biases. Fathers tend to be the disciplinarians. We perpetuated that in media and movies and things like that. Remember, what would they say on Leave It to Beaver when one of the boys would be bad? Wait till your dad gets home, right? And I know in my house, I'm not talking about child abuse because we're not going to go there, but my mom got us way more than my dad did. I can remember the times. Now, my dad was loud and he was insulting at times, but in terms of physical discipline, that was all mom on us. So everyone's heard the cliche, just wait till your father comes home. Researchers have found that fathers tend to be more direct and firmer than mothers in their disciplinary approaches, reinforcing their reputation as enforcers. But Partnership in Parenting, which is a book written by our curriculum developers, Kyle and Marsha Pruitt, outline how fathers are often more willing than mothers to confront their children and less willing to rationalize or negotiate punishments with them. Moms, in typical, if we're looking back in a historical lens, moms spent more time with kids, right? And moms would have to be the ones to enforce that. Otherwise, the kids would kind of, you didn't have time to wait 10 hours until dad walked back in the door. So those things were taken care of, but dads are either depicted as the disciplinarians or the playthings. It even happens in non-custodial relationships. We've heard, oh, they're the Saturday dad. They get to go when they don't have homework, and they don't have to have curfews, or not the curfew, but bedtimes and bedtime routines. Dad gets to swoop in for the non-custodial parent in that role. But it's, when you have both parents playing an equal part, it leads to such positive outcomes. Because let's say something like homework. I don't know how many of you guys have children and like homework. I mentioned it earlier. That's where we really test how well we communicate as a family and how we support each other. But it's a really hard thing. If it was on me all the time, I would say when I first started with kids, I had a full head of hair, and now it's gone. If I had to be a single parent and do homework every single day, I wouldn't even have my beard rocking. It would all fall out. But working together allows that energy to bring forth my best effort when we are switching out. And my wife and I, we approach it like a wrestling match. We tag out. So once you notice that someone's feeling it a little bit, hey, let's go. And you go in there and you do it and you switch off. So if she's on dinner that night and I'm on homework and she hears my voice and it's certain things behaviorally that I do that she knows that I'm about to lose it, she tags out, and I'm on kitchen, I'm going cooking, and she's on homework. And I'm gonna have to start speeding up, guys, because I can chat a little bit. Okay, so let's move to the way that you kind of go about kind of mitigating the impact of biases is going through a process called debiasing. So this is what happens when you try to debias yourself. So a bias is triggered. So I'm going to use tattoos because I have tattoos. So you see a person with tattoos walk in and you automatically notice that you get tense. You start thinking negative thoughts about a person with tattoo. All experiences when people come in with tattoos, whatever your thought is, once you realize you go there, you develop an awareness of your bias, you decide to correct the bias. And this is where the intentionality really comes into place. You assess the direction and magnitude of this bias. You have to select and apply the appropriate debiasing techniques. And I'm going to go through a couple of those with you. And then you get to a better place of decision making and how it's going to impact things, right? So here's a couple of strategies. You have stereotype replacement. So in stereotype replacement, which is one of my favorite strategies of debiasing, you recognize your stereotypic thoughts, recognize the portrayals in society, label the characterization as stereotypical, identify the factors, and you challenge the fairness of this portrayal, and you intentionally replace it with something else, something that's more appropriate for what your goals are, right? Another one that I really like is increasing opportunities for contact. So if you're an agency that hasn't typically served a lot of fathers, and your thought process behind it is we've done all these really cool engagement things and fathers haven't come in, they just don't want to be here, you can increase your opportunities to have a wider net. So it's me going into Psych 101 because there was 140 women in there and I thought at least one of them was going to say yes to me, right? So you find places that your audience will be at, so you can then create opportunities to have those discussions where you directly confront your bias that fathers don't want to be in services. So switching over to engagement.
Oops,
sorry.
It goes to sleep.
Okay. Why we should engage. I mentioned this earlier. We underutilize 50% of parenting capacity when we don't. For me, that's the biggest reason why. And I don't know anybody who would go into any type of event, you wouldn't go to work knowing consistently that you're going in with 50% of your resources. If you walked into a job and it was interviewing and they said, hey, by the way, this is everything you should have, but we're going to remove all of it and we're going to hold you to the same standard of production and performance, everybody that's listening would say, that's not a place I want to work for, right? Yet we do that with our families consistently by not making it mandatory that if both parents are available, that we make ways for them to participate. See anybody ever heard of the first 1,000 days? During the first 1,000 days of a kid's life, from conception to about 3 years old, a child's brain develops to about 80% of its adult size. 80% within those first 1,000 days. This is the point. During that time, you will never have another period in your life where you learn as much as that. There are so many neural connections that form during those first 1,000 days. So going back to the conversation about moms, or whether or not it's moms or dads, whoever does one thing one way and someone does something another way, all those are learning opportunities and growth opportunities. And the more that you get that at that point during that stretch, it allows for greater probability of success and ability to thrive later on. So when you see somebody struggling at 18 years old, it's rare that anybody's ever going to say, what happened in, at 2 years old? We're never going there. At that point, you're trying to intervene and figure out a way to get somebody on the right track. So we get a lot of fathers who come in, some fathers who've been incarcerated, some fathers by other, we had a father who came in who didn't realize that he was a father until his son was 6. And so when we say stuff like this and they think, well, I missed out, you just got some work to do. And that's what we tell them. Man, whatever has happened before walking in this door, the one thing you can change, because nobody has a DeLorean and can go back into the future. But what you can do is you can worry about what happens today. You can worry about what happens tomorrow. And that's the thing that you can impact. So we really focus on that with our fathers that we come in. Slide, please. So what we can do is you can apply a fatherhood lens to everything you're doing. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. And that's what a lot of people think, oh, in engaged fathers, we got to do something drastically different. You don't have to do something drastically different, but you do have to have the mindset of what worked for moms like this may not work for dads, and in most cases won't work for dads in the same way. But it's a little bit of tweak here and there that can make it impactful, right? But what I tell people all the time, you guys are going to walk away from here and it's going to be great. And you got some things, some extra tools you can add in your toolkit, and you will go back to your office and you will put those things on the desk. And if you're like me, that thing becomes a coaster until I add the next step on my next training on there and I don't revisit it. If I had gone to a training, I would have thought it was some great stuff. But the fact that I get the pleasure of having this conversation every day, my team engages in this conversation every day. So when we train community agencies, how do we because we talk about it at our community agencies, our partnering agencies, we talk about service and impacting families every single day. That's part of our narrative. That's part of the conversation. That's the expectation. How do we bring them in? We talk about outputs and outcomes. And so it's easy to do that work, right? What we don't talk about is how to bring dads in, or the importance of dads. And if you continue to have that conversation, even if you did it weekly, let's put 15 minutes on the book. Next time we have our team meeting, let's make sure, whether it's a video, whether it's an article that someone's seen, whether it's an event that's coming up, and we make sure that this is always included in this narrative, this conversation. All of a sudden, we start going through our own debiasing, right? And we start placing this thought into the forefront of our mind, and we're being mindful, which allows us to get to the place of being intentional. And look, we have a lot. Has anybody ever tried to tie their shoe in a different way? Anybody ever, injure a hand or wrist and I can't brush my teeth with my right, I'm a righty, and all of a sudden I got to brush with the left? How does that feel? Crazy, right? It feels really weird and awkward. And even if you saw something and said, hey, that looks really cool, to learn a new skill, it is awkward. How does it become to feel less awkward? Practicing and getting back to it. So that's where I really want you to spend. I want you to look at this. I'm gonna go through this in like 30 seconds, and we're gonna do we have time for a quick exercise?
We have 9 minutes.
9 minutes. Okay, we're gonna get to this exercise. So keys to engaging fathers. Know that fathers are coming in with their own bias against you, right? Know that. Extend the olive branch. We talked about that. If you do find yourself engaged with the father, acknowledge their value to this very tough process and the worth in children's lives. If you lead with what you have to offer, even in mandated services, you may face some resistance. Remember, if you tell them, we had somebody who was like to tell, I'm going to teach you this, and you ain't going to teach me nothing. Is what even if they don't say it, that's the energy you get back, right? And their mind closes. You're miming too. Thank you. Okay. Address your own bias. So going back to the device and understand when you are triggered. In social work and counseling and therapy, we talk about countertransference. Understand when you're going through something that's not your norm. And when you find yourself there, stop yourself and check yourself. I was going to say a rap lyric, but I won't. It's good to be direct, honest. Transparency is often respected. If something is, yo, I get it. This is tough. I'm asking you to be here for the next 16 weeks for 2 hours a night on Monday night, and it's football season. That absolutely sucks. I get it. This is the time that is offered. How can we make a way for you to be here? What would it take for you to get here? Being honest, I don't need to sugarcoat it with a lot of guys. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
What you just said was important in terms of like, well, this is when it's offered. That's when I hear that agencies, the barriers within the agency, because I hear a lot of the agencies saying, this is all we can do. My staff doesn't work past this hour. I don't have the capacity. And that's what the struggle really is when it's, well, systemically, yeah, the organization is saying, well, we want you here, but we maybe can't accommodate or make changes within our structure so that you're here. And it's really sad because I hear that staff saying, well, I can't do that. I don't work past 5.
Right.
This is as far as I go and I can't do that. So, but we want you to change your life as a parent to come here to listen to what we've got to tell you that you need to do. And parents, I as a parent would say, well, wow, that doesn't sound very engaging and inviting to me.
Right.
So I'm just wondering, how do you address it within your own organizational culture to let staff know, hey, we've got to be flexible, we've got to adapt.
I will say this. One, for my program, when you were hired, this was a conversation. We're servicing some population that hasn't typically come in for services. So if you're not able to or willing to work 3 nights out of the week, on the high end, but the expectation is 2 nights out of the week and a weekend during the month, then this is not the place for you. Now it's different because we came in as a program, so everybody came in knowing that for programs that were already in existence within Children's Bureau, we had to go and we do trainings with them, and we ask them, what do you want? What's your vision of success in serving fathers? What's your vision of healthy outcomes? And we ask them that, and if they don't say having fathers included, I'm not sure what we can do about that. But it's a conversation that we can go back and we can go to our program directors and our senior leadership team, and we say, you're not going to get them in the door because of some of these issues. Now, sitting with a father in that situation, again, it sucks. It's one, it's the way that you deliver a message, and 2, how can we get you here? What can we do? What are certain ways? You got to meet this deadline. What are certain ways that we can do to support you, knowing that we can't go through 5 o'clock?
Maybe it's a question and a comment. So when I started in my position at Western Youth, that was one of the things I brought up because I have adult sons and grandkids. And that was an issue right away. I was like, hey, we're not going to get dads if we don't meet later. And the same with moms, because moms work a lot of them really late. We've got to meet late in the afternoons. And so, it was something that I pushed and got. I finally won.
Kudos.
I'm pushy, but yeah, it's something that I think is definitely needed. You have to be willing to have a free schedule to help families, and they appreciate it. They know how important it is because they're like, we're going to come at 6 o'clock on a Thursday. I'm like, hey, it's about you. Like, what do you need? What can we do to help? Like, we're here.
Right.
So
I think that's kudos to you for going that route, and being pushy for and advocating, for the needs of the population that you served. this is another thing. I tell my staff, and I told them all, we sat at a table and we said, we know what we're signing up for. It's a lot of work that's ahead. We are not going to lose our families to save someone else's family. So as a team, we have to figure out how to structure this so not everyone is always, because it is what it is. If I'm doing great work in the community, but I'm not there for my family, my kids, I sat there and I shared this with Jose Ramos and Valerie Brox during my interview, and I said, I love coaching my kids. I'm not giving up that. If it's somebody that you want that's going to be here every night during the week, then please choose somebody else. But if you want somebody that's going to be passionate on fire and can do this, I'm your dude. But that's something you got to balance out. And I have that. This is the conversation when we're having with staff. We already have staff that are doing this work, and we know we work in a field where compensation is not what it should be for the people that are doing the work and on the grind. They are already given so much. So if you frame it in a way, we need a week out of, what one night a week looks like for the families that you serve, you got to give them some what's in it for them. And the large majority of folks will say, that's enough for me. They're already doing the work and they made a choice to be in this field for a reason. Now it's not taking advantage of them unless you're just trying to, every day of the week, or I'm just going to flip your schedule. People have the ability to adjust if you communicate the value of that adjustment. And it's the same thing when reaching out with fathers. Communicate the value. When I talk to fathers, do you know this? When your son sees you treat the woman in your life, hopefully his mom too, with respect and compassion, he goes out and he treats women in the same way. When your daughter is treated with respect and compassion and love, and she sees you do that with the woman in your life, she's not willing to settle for some moron because she knows what it looks like. But at the end of the day, everyone has to make a choice. So there ain't no guarantees in this. But if I can tell you that you can increase the probability of success, yeah. Is that enough for you? And if not, maybe it ain't for you.
So we are at the 11 o'clock hour and we're scheduled to take a break. And I know we didn't get into our exercise. Do you just want to close with maybe just a short description of what that exercise would look like? So maybe folks could do that independently?
Cool.
Okay, that would.
So everyone has an engagement activity, and an engagement activity, it has, and this is something you can take back to your teams, and we're going to do it together. The goal is this is a typical type of individual that can walk into your agency, walk into your door that you can service. The goal is to understand what's going on, to look at it from issues that he may have, from conflict to bias, family structure, to you would go through your basic needs assessment and then figure out a way to engage this person, right? There are certain things that, again, we talk about a lot of generalities, generalizations, I just made up a word, sorry. A lot of generalizations that you can use in applying this. But at the end of the day, it really is about the person that you're sitting across when you're having these conversations and what their needs are. And I try to be in a place as much as I can to listen to what people's needs are. And then to be honest and transparent about what we have that could meet those needs. And I ask them, is this something that works for you? So please take that activity. It's a couple of pages. And on the very last thing, this is when I go back to intentionality. I'm very big on vision boards. I am big on the idea of the laws of attraction. A few minutes ago, I mentioned that when I'm talking to other programs that are already established and they already have staff and they have a fixed mindset, I ask them, what's their vision of success look like? What's a healthy family look like for you and your program? This is where your vision board comes into play. Start to just put images together and see, and then go back, give it a couple of days, go back and look at those images and see, does it meet this definition of father engagement? If you have a bunch of families depicted and it's just kids being happy, then what do you think that route to getting those kids with that big smile on their face, right?
Okay. I think the slides give a good description on how to take this back to our to our organizations. I'm already thinking about how I'm going to bring this engagement activity to my all-staff meeting next week with about 8 family advocates. I know it's going to be a home run, thanks to what I've learned with you today, Shandi. And so this is our opportunity to take a break. Online community, we're taking a break. We want you back because we have a real exciting group of parent partners that are going to come and talk to us about their experience working with programs in Santa Barbara County and Riverside County. So we'll be back here at about 11:10. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Oh, God. Thank you.
So, hello everyone, we're going to come together. Hello to our remote audience, and we're all coming together to start our parent panel. And I'm going to hand the mic over to our first parent. And I want to just thank Shandi today for making the time to be with us and to educate us about the Dads Matter program. I personally learned a lot. This is why we call this a learning community. We're here to learn together, to carry back our practice, to help improve our practices. And I'm really looking forward to doing the activity at our all-staff meeting at the Link Family Resource Center in Atascadero, California. And I'll let you know how it goes, Shandi. And anyway, so as we sit here and reflect about our experiences and our work and how we'd love to take it all back home and carry it with our peers and with our supervisors and our board of directors and the community, how to improve not just what we do, but also to honor and respect those who have touched services, engaged with services, and what can they do to help us build a better program, a better system. And with us today, we have 4 individuals who we have met over the last few weeks over the phone. And this is the first time we're seeing each other in person, except for my colleagues in Santa Barbara. And we're going to start this off
with having them introduce themselves. First, I just quickly reintroduce yourselves so we have a sense of you, the four folks here. And then we're going to come and do the questions, and hopefully our online audience, as well as the folks that are in this room, I really want to encourage your thinking and how you would like to not just ask questions, but to clarify anything that you would like to learn today with our parent partners. So this is meant to be an engaged activity, and so I encourage your participation. So Roger, I think the mic might be on. And why don't you quickly introduce yourself and the program you're representing, and then we'll go down to all the way, and then we'll start back with you with questions.
Sure. My name is Roger De Leon, and I am a parent partner with Children's Services Riverside County, as well as part of the Fatherhood Initiative for Riverside County called DADS, which represents what says Dads Assisting Dads. So it's something brand new. So I really commend my, I call him a brother, you know, and what we're doing. So just wanted to throw that out there.
My name is Amber Kopp, and I am also a parent partner with Riverside County. And as well as Roger, we work in Riverside, all of Riverside County.
Wow.
My name is Lindsay Day, and I am a parent partner with Santa Barbara County, as well as a strengthening educator for CAPC for the Santa Barbara County as well.
My name is Cecilia Herrera, also a partner with CAPC in Santa Barbara County.
Thank you. You pass the mic down. And just for the rest of the audience, when we say CAPC, I'm going to ask the question of the room. Do we all know what a CAPC is? Thank you. I thank you for being honest. So when we say CAPC, we tend to default to that, and that means the Child Abuse Prevention Council. So every county in this state has a Child Abuse Prevention Council that takes on its own form. It might be called something else. Like in Orange County, it's called the RAISE Foundation. You have a few, okay. And I know in Los Angeles, they have SPAs, or, you know, like chapters of the Child Abuse Prevention Council in Los Angeles, taking on like Long Beach and, you know, Fullerton. And in Santa Barbara County, you have Barb Finch here up the front here, who is the director of what is called Kids Network of Santa Barbara County. It serves in its role as also managing the Child Abuse Prevention Council, or CAPC, and that's why I'm here today. I started my career way long ago to be a director of a Child Abuse Prevention Council, and now we've evolved and grown into doing many more things. So that's just for clarification. So we all know what a CAPC is. Excellent. So Roger, you're on to share with us about your journey, and I heard a little bit about that journey when we first talked on the phone. And our first question for you is, how does your lived experience inform your work as a parent partner? And it's yours.
Well, my lived experience plays a big role as a parent partner, as we're called to walk alongside parents. As we know, for the most part, the lived experience that we've gone through the child welfare system. Some of us had our children removed, and we reunified successfully. And so years later, the county has brought us back to be a support for parents, but also to work alongside with the department, you know, social workers and so on, and of course, community agencies and all. And so my experience of what it felt like to go through it, I think for me, really does a lot. Because honestly, when you're talking about a situation like this, having to have navigated the system and gone through it, it doesn't go away. You feel a certain type of feeling that just doesn't go away. But at the same time, being able to utilize what I've learned through my experience and seeing another parent, the way that I view it is that I would like to do everything I can possible to help the next parent that's going through maybe what I've gone through, understand what's going on. Going through the child welfare system or any type of system without any type of information is really rough, especially if you don't know what's going to be happening. I mean, to be honest with you, it feels like you're like cattle going in and coming back out. You don't know what just happened. The language is different. And so being able to take that, what could have been tragic, and turn it around to be able to help another family, another parents who are going through the system, has really done something for myself to be able to look at them to say, hey, what didn't I have that I can give to them? It's nothing about a revenge thing. It's also about helping our counterparts, with our social workers, understand the perspective of a family. I've come to know a lot of social workers, and I respect the work that they do. I understand the system a lot more. We're going to be 5 years old in May. I was actually the first parent partner to walk through the doors. So I got to see this program being built up. So I got to see both worlds, the one that I was on at one time, and also the side where our social workers go through. I sat in induction, which is what they go through before they become full-on social workers. So I got to learn about a lot of the responsibilities, but also a lot of the stress that they hold. And so being able to see that and being able to remember where I was at one time, it gives me this opportunity to be in the center, to do what I call a dance, to be able to understand the parent, apply that empathy that's needed, give them the motivation, but also individualize them. I don't expect them to be me and to do exactly what I've done. So I think meeting them where they're at has really done something, because I know I would have liked somebody to have seen me for who I am. I saw my court report and it looked like a monster, and I realized that I don't want to add to that, but I'm not there to shame and blame. We're in a system that's not perfect, and so I think that whatever we can do from our learning experience to help others navigate it to the best of our abilities, whether we can do anything or not, I think helps the parents especially get to the place where they need to be, because it's all about the kids. It's about the children. It's about bringing safety to them. And so I sit in a lot of different panels, and one of the things that I always stress to individuals in different agencies is that when we want to look at the safety of the children, and this is through my experience as well, when we want to look at the safety of the children, we have to look at the whole family. And then being able to give them that opportunity to develop, we have to develop those, those chances for them to grow, to change, understanding, and so on and so forth. So I think that all the lived experience that I've had in the past, with my own family, I'm also a minister, so I work with other families, have helped me to see the families for who they are, the parents for who they are. So I don't want to take too much time.
No, you're good right
Okay.
now. And I think that let's go to question number 2. And Roger, what is your perspective on the challenges in the system? And when we say the system, can you clarify for the audience what you think of as the system, and give it a name beyond system?
Okay. Well, I mean, for myself, my experience, I've had experience with the child welfare system. I've had experience with child support and family law. So, and honestly, as a man, I've seen a side that a lot of other men have shared. Now, I don't want to play, back and forth in that way, but honestly, there is that bias that still exists. With that being said, it's an imperfect system, and we all know that, with imperfect people. So it's not about going and seeing how we can bring down a system. It's about how, when we see an issue, how we can do our best in what we've learned to help develop, that gap and bring that understanding. And so my perspective of the system is that it has its perks. I mean, we do need it. We see when there are children who are in danger, especially with the child welfare system, that someone needs to step in. But it's agreed upon with not just myself, but many who I've spoken with, is that a system cannot raise children. It can't. And so understanding that a system cannot raise children, I think with Riverside County, I think we're privileged because they see that as well. They see a value in who we are. Not only are we just parent partners, as a matter of fact, they don't say just parent partners. They try to involve us with every type of community there is, whether it's from the top, looking at policies and procedures, how we can better serve and be of customer service for families, all the way to even being a part of simulation and that's basically where we get to sit down and have a moment with brand new inductees who are about to be social workers and give them a real life experience of interviewing what it's like to interview parents. And so we get to play the role of, whatever the circumstances there and give them what perspective of like for myself, a man, a father or a boyfriend, and then for the mother, and then for the teenager. So that way they can see it. And I think that right there, that approach shows that for my county, how much they value our opinion, because then we get to share afterwards what was working well for them and what possibly they can look at before they get into the field. I know it may seem small, but it really isn't, because it's giving them the opportunity to hear from parents who have been on the other side of the system of what it feels like, through the experience that we've had, but also being a part of the department of what the expectations are, and to basically just give them kind of a heads up in how they approach. Now, we know that we have people who are imperfect, but if we can do everything we can to help them develop into at least being able to give those parents as well as the whole family an opportunity and viewing what they do as seeing another human being across the way, that we've done our job. Beyond that, it's hard, but the way that I see the system, the challenges of the system is that there is still the way that they view dads. And I work a lot with fathers. And so whether it's from the court system, asking for unreasonable things, to some of the biases that come in when they're dealing with dads and even with mom. I'm going to play just one side. I've seen it both. I work with couples as well. And so some of the expectations can be overwhelming, but I think that's what I love about our county is not that part, but that we get to come in and voice our opinions. And we have the support of a wonderful supervisor as well as regional manager when it's out of our hands, that we can go openly and have a sit down and speak with them, and they can take it up the chain of command for the sake of our parents. So I know that this is a big job for 6 individuals for the whole county of Riverside, and not to mention that I'm the only male Spanish-speaking parent partner for Riverside County. I do need help, but I know that that's not going to happen overnight. But I'm happy that we're getting ready to celebrate 5 years, and that we're looking really good. And the individuals that we do help, we do come across the problems in the system, but we're able to also help them find another way around it. And we've been able to see that successful rate as well, where the outcome is based on basically how the parent has transformed and changed. And we give credit fully to the parent, because all we are there is to walk with them. We don't do it for them. We don't make them do anything, but to empower them, to see them come out of even some of the roughest moments in their lives. Not to mention just, on top of what they're going through, just what's requested of them at times, to be able to come out of that and to see them just successfully go on all the rest of their lives with their children. I think that's what's rewarding, is to see that. And yes, we have seen the other side, but I think today we will focus on the positive.
Thank you, Roger. I'm going to just pause here for a moment before we move on and check in with the folks here that have any kind of thoughts that they'd like to share. Okay, can we take this and hand it down?
So for Roger, because I haven't heard from you guys. As a mentor, so you say you go in as a mentor and you provide support and not judgmental, like that's your mindset when you go in to help a parent. And I'm just wondering, do you work off of a wellness plan and like a plan of care, so that when you do leave the family, they have support in the resources in the community, or how is that you do?
So when I go in, I don't have any structured strategy on paper. I usually go along with getting to know the parent first, and then allowing them to teach me who they are. And then from there, yes, I do have certain things that I share, like I'm not going to be here forever. And that's one of the things that I will share, is that I'm not here to tell you what to do, nor am I here to do it for you, because my goal at the end of all of this is that when the department walks away and we all walk away, that we never come back into your life. And so that usually gets them spurred up. And of course, when they know somebody's listening to them genuinely, and then going off of that, and the planning starts with them, not with me, and not with, oh, you need to do this, and no, but what do you feel needs to happen? It really turns it around. And having someone there, and I've heard it many times before, you know, even apologizing, even if I didn't do anything, I'm sorry for what you had to go through. So what can we do now going forward? So I think my approach is always individualizing. Even with the report that's given to us, because we don't get everything, I don't read it all the way because I want to get to know the individual rather than, you know, look at something on paper like I was. And that's what I'm talking about. I give them what I would have wanted.
What is the most difficult part working with males in the Hispanic community? And also working with undocumented families, undocumented parents. What is the challenge right now?
The second part, what was it?
Working undocumented
Oh,
parents
yeah.
facing the system.
Okay, thank you. So when we talk about the Hispanic community, especially with males, we got the machismo thing going on. My approach is always in a submissive way. So it's not a let's challenge to see who's what. Our program is a volunteer program, first of all. So it's upon them to say if they want, and then I reiterate it when I meet them. It's like I share with them what the program is, and I tell them at any time, you can say we're done. You're in control of this right here. So even with male Hispanics, I tend to tell them, look, I'm not here to tell you how to be a father. You already know how to be a father. All I'm here to do is just tell you what anything else is telling you, is that we can become better fathers. So how could I help you in that? And giving that empowerment back to them gives them that, okay, you're not here to take over. You're not here to tell me what to do. You're another man, but you're here and you understand. And I do share a part of my story, but I don't get into it because it's not about me. I try to make everything always about the parents that I'm sitting, especially when it comes to men. And so the undocumented, usually I know that sometimes they can be a little bit fearful. So I'll let them question me. I'll let them take me for a ride and whatever it is, because I know that it's not them that have to prove themselves to me. It's me that has to prove myself to them. Because even though I have lived experience, I have a badge. And so I realize that badge can look very intimidating. So I never approach thinking, hey, I got all the answers and all that. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty upfront. If I don't know something, I tell them. If I don't know something, I'll let you know. But we can find it together. So being honest and up forth, and of course letting them know that I'm not there to take their manhood, so to speak, gives them that opportunity to say, okay, let me give you a chance, and it hasn't failed yet. So
Go ahead, keep it. So we're going to take this time, unless I hear any questions from the online audience, and so we'll move ahead and hand the mic over to Amber, and we're going to let you talk with us, because I know you work closely with Roger.
Yes.
And you actually are in the same, office?
Yes.
You, along with the other parent partners?
Yeah.
You all are based in one spot, but then you go out in the field.
All the way to Blythe.
Blythe?
Yes.
Whoa. Wow.
LA County, Orange County, San Diego County, wherever our parents are at. We had one that had our mom in Barstow, yeah. But our best one so far is Blythe. I think that's the hardest drive.
So Amber, why don't we do our 2 questions? And of course, I encourage the dialogue or the questions or the comments from the online audience. Amber, what inspired you to make changes for your family?
I kind of came from kind of like a generational type situation. So I really didn't know how to do things a whole lot differently than how I was doing them. And when CPS knocked on my door and told me that they were going to take my kids if I didn't get it together, I was done. I stopped. I was going through like some domestic violence and substance abuse because they kind of go hand in hand. And when they came and it was my choices or my kids, of course it was going to be my kids. So little by little, I just started making changes to become a stronger and better person, reaching out to taking advantage of the resources. I started attending churches, and little by little, I overcame all of that wonderful stuff, all of the adversity, all of the challenges. And before I knew it, I was like 5 years clean, 6 years clean, getting an apartment, getting the job with the county, and just with each step that I took, I just became better. And
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. Thank you for being so honest and transparent with us.
It's very important in the jobs that we do, though.
And
Be
that's
transparent.
And can you share a little bit more about why you value that?
Well, for me, when I had to deal with the department, I was blessed that everybody that I dealt with was very honest and was very transparent. And so I know how that it served me. So now when I'm working with the families that I work with, it's huge, because if you're truthful, if you're honest, if you're transparent, you're going to get a whole lot further than if you're not. And meeting the families where they are is also very huge, because if you're not able to meet them where they are, how are you going to help them overcome what they're struggling with?
Thank you. Thank you. We have a couple. I'm happy to pass the
Kind of a
baton.
follow-up to what I forget what you said in the beginning of how you build rapport. So my question is, to build strengths and positives, do you find that something that you do with your families when you first get a family? You find out what are they doing well, what's working for them. Does that help you at all?
Of course, similar to Roger, when I do get a new family, I go out and I sit down with them and I meet them and I allow them to tell me like what's going on, what's working well. If it's substance abuse, I have them kind of tell me like about a time maybe that they didn't have a substance abuse issue, so we can kind of mirror what they did well then now, or maybe figure out what the trigger is that's going on now that maybe wasn't going on when they didn't have the substance abuse issue. And if it is dads, I acknowledge the fact that they're at the table. I acknowledge the fact that they're doing well. And then even like with some of the dads, people automatically assume they're aggressive or they're mad. And so I will have that conversation with the dads. Like, I understand right now you seem aggressive and everybody might be scared of you, but I understand as a dad, you're just protecting your family and it's coming off this way, but that's really not your intentions. And it will help make them feel proud of what they're doing, because they feel like I'm not misunderstanding them.
Maggie, oh, there you go.
Thank you, Amber, for sharing. I wonder, you said that obviously choosing your kids versus choosing the life that you were leading was a big factor. I'm wondering, for staff who are listening and people who are, on the other side, is there anything that you remember or recall, behaviors or things that were said to you from a staff member that really kind of helped you feel like, yeah, this is, I'm going to accept this help, or I'm going to think about what they're telling me and really maybe make those steps. Is there anything that you can recall that really kind of helped you like buy into what they were saying would be helpful? Do you recall that?
For me, just the knock at the door was was good, So that was for me. But a lot of the families that I work with, it's not that easy. And what did help me though was everybody that I came across throughout my journey with the system, they were all very understanding and they were very supportive. And so I didn't necessarily have a parent partner because Riverside County didn't have a parent partner program when I had my case, but I did have an SSA worker who picked up my kids and transported them to the visits. And she was always like, you got this, girl, you'll be fine. Like, she was a cheerleader. And then even the workers that I dealt with, they were also very positive. And so that's really what helped push me as well. Because like for my family, like I remember my mom was like so mad all the time. She wasn't able to understand. When I had to give visits to like the kid's dad, it was like my mom was so angry. And so I did go through a lot trying to like do what was asked of me. And I was supported by the department. So I don't have that. I don't have a negative story as far as my experience with the department, because they were all very supportive. And I think that's the key. Because even now when I work with the families, I'm able to support them. But if they're not feeling the support from the social worker or from the department, it's really hard to overcome that because they get that in their head like this is hopeless. I'm not going to get my kids, so I bother.
Thank you. So another question for you. How have you applied what you have learned to strengthen your community? So in Riverside, that's where you live, right? I know you've been involved in several initiatives in Riverside County. So can you share with us what you're doing right now?
My two favorite initiatives in Riverside County is QPI, Quality Parenting, which is not just Riverside County, it's like the whole United States. But we have it in Riverside County, and I've been a part of that initiative since it got to Riverside County. I love that initiative with everything in me. That's the one initiative that I look forward to going to every meeting because of what it represents and the importance of the collaboration between like the department, the foster parents, and then like the birth families, and how they're really starting to open their minds to see how it's so important to have all three of those entities working together when kids are in care for the best interest of the kiddo. So that's like my favorite initiative. And then SOP, which is Safety Organized Practice. I completed all the modules, and I was also trained to train our social workers in Riverside County. And that was already kind of my style before I went through the training, but it was cool to see that it had like names and like it was cool that they had like sayings for what we were already doing, because when they brought it to like us, because me and Roger have been together for the 5 years, and so when they brought it to us, we were kind of like, oh, it's like a training, it's a needed training, like this is what we're already doing. But I mean, I guess there's a name for it. So to watch that roll out and really like see it blossom, that was kind of cool, and to use it with our families.
That's very cool. Really appreciate that feedback. So I'm just going to do one little moment for you. We've heard about you I've heard you share about being bilingual. Can you share what that means to you?
So whenever I am trying to explain like what the parent partner does, or if I'm sharing or even trying to like bridge the gap and build relationships between like the social workers and the families, or just different entities that we work with, I always make the joke that I'm bilingual. I speak county and I speak parent. And so it kind of makes everybody laugh, and it kind of takes down the tension of the families when we're in those kind of different situations.
I love it.
Yes.
But I appreciate you sharing that reframing of bilingual, county and parent, and that helps ease the tension for whoever's in the room.
Yeah, well, because realistically, like I was just at a CFT the other day, and the social worker, she's an amazing social worker, but she was using a lot of like our terms, and the families were super confused. But it was cool because we're learning. Everybody's becoming aware that our families don't understand all of our thousands of letters and different terms that we use. So she stopped herself and she says, oh, I'm so sorry. Let me explain to you what that meant. And it was cool because we're starting to learn that families don't speak county.
Oh man, that's great. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to prepare to move on to Lindsay on your right. I'm checking in that there's no comments or question at this time because Roger and Amber are here representing the part of Parent Partners that's very engaged with our child welfare services system. And so we're going to segue into our parents here who are very active in what we would call primary prevention, and also just get a better understanding of what you do in Santa Barbara County. So no, Lindsay, you're a neighbor of mine. I live in Arroyo Grande, and Monpoke's not that far. So we really are grateful that you're here with us.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
I'm thrilled. As a parent partner, how have you been able to share your lived experience to improve family well-being in your community?
I would have to say being able to be a representation of what a parent has gone through and what they're capable of achieving. Our program is fairly new as well. It'll be 4 years as in June. And being able to go out into the community and actually be able to share a perspective of the parents of what is needed and what is valued and what is wanted what they're actually desiring to have the help, and being able to relay that to other service providers has been very, very huge. I do a lot of networking and a lot of presentations, and I go and I speak at numerous different sites involving so many different organizations and service providers. And I'm trying to really build that gap in between what's actually needed down with on our parents level, and trying to show what their expectations are maybe on a county side or an organization side, and trying to really make sure that the paths and the connections that they make are going to be helpful and accurate and actually a true representation of what our parents need.
So what are you looking forward to next?
I have been working with child welfare very closely in creating a reunification preparation course.
Oh.
Hopefully this will start they would like to start it in April. I was thinking more of June. Yeah, so that went very quickly. I was like, oh, okay. But what this is going to do is parents who are going to be involved, or actually anyone that's going to be close to the family, because like Roger had said, we treat the family, and we really do want to help prevent child abuse. But it really starts with the parents and understanding where they have come from, and the parents of where they have come from as well, and understanding where they have learned the type of behaviors that they are probably passing on to their children, and helping them to recognize, you know, the generational that can go and just sustain on, and not a way that we really want to keep perpetuating that. So we began a reunification preparation course for families that are going to be entering into the child welfare system. And this is going to give them the opportunity to understand what is going to be expected of them, understand who they can work with, what supports are offered, if they have any questions or concerns about how this may affect their family and outside relatives as well, how we can help bring them in so everybody can be a part, looking at a more holistic way of treating the family. So I'm very excited about that. We've also been working on parenting groups recently that have to do with teens. So the parents can actually bring a teen with them to the parenting group, and then they'll separate, be able to talk about the same subject in a different area, bring it back together and have them work it out together. And anything, I've been working as a strengthening parenting educator, and I've started those. I'll be partnering hopefully with the Santa Barbara County Housing Initiative, and being able to go to different housing authorities and being able to put on a presentation about the 5 protective factors. So that's something I'm also looking forward to.
I'm just checking with the group for any comments or questions at this time. So my question to you before we move on to Ceci is, when you talk about your work with the reunification course, so does it have a snapping name yet, or is it?
They have not really settled on a name yet. They were going to do CWS 101, and I didn't really like the sound of that. So we're still going to be working on the actual name. I was like, let's not go that way. I liked reunification preparation. I'm like, hey, that kind of flows a little bit, but it's long. But we'll have to wait and see. But I know we'll have to pick something soon because it's right around the corner.
Yeah. So can you just take the moment and describe to us, are you going to be the lead educator on that?
I actually will be working closely with another social worker.
Okay.
It will be presented once a week, and we're hoping to do it at the juvenile court facility where parents are already going to be.
Oh, okay.
And I'll be looking at it from a parent, you know, as being able to get on the parent's level. Well, we will have a social worker who can answer the questions that have to do with what they are looking for and their involvement regarding the case.
All right.
You're talking about giving these presentations to parents. What is the highlights? What is the main information that you provide?
The biggest information that I really want to highlight when speaking with the parents is that they have a choice, and that their opinions and their concerns are really validated and they are heard. One of the biggest issues I feel we come across as parents are being felt like they have to engage in something that they don't feel is a right fit. And it's being able to really let them know, letting them see from perspective how this can be beneficial. Not that we're making you do it, because no matter what, they have a choice. A lot of people say, oh yeah, but it's mandated, but you have a choice whether to show up or not. And really just playing on that you actually are here, and we want to hear what is and you think is in your best interest, and why they feel that these are situations that you need to be engaged in order to build a stronger family.
Oh, that's very helpful. Go ahead. I think you should just keep it because we're going to hand it over to Ceci in a moment. But this is very new for me to hear about this concept. I'm looking to Roger and Amber. Have you practicing something similar to that? I just want to take a moment to learn more.
Yeah, so what we do is basically if we get the case early on, which is what we always push for with the social workers when we do our presentations, get us early on so that way we can go and explain the whole court, ideally how it functions. Unfortunately, we don't have a program like that, which I think would be useful. I know we have where they go in and see a film, and we're looking at that in the future to where we'll be in there being able to present to them, share with them, and meet them where they're at. I know San Bernardino does that. And so we were very close with San Bernardino and those type of things. And that's where we got the idea. So, but unfortunately, we don't have that. And there's only 6 of us. There's 3 courts in Riverside County. So it's hard, but as much as we can, even when we're sitting in the court hallways with our parents, we see other parents at times, they're crying, they look lost. So we'll take the initiative to go and have a conversation with them. I just did that the other day with a young lady who was just crying, looked like she had no support. Just started talking to her a little bit, and then I gave her, basically ideally how it was gonna function. Which for her it was a relief. It didn't take totally everything, but it was a relief because at least she knew what was coming. And I think that's the most important thing, with your program, and I commend you guys for doing that there. That these parents, they go in there and to at least know it may not take away everything, but at least you know what you're going to be facing. So, but yeah, that's what we do.
Thank you, Lindsay, for taking the lead on that. We look forward to learning more about how your, whatever the name it's going to be called, CWS 101, I agree with you, that's not what they should be calling it. Yeah. And we look forward to hearing about that and learning more about that. And Barbara, will you be able to make sure we hear about that? Okay, that's a great, and it's interesting to hear about using a video because you can't have enough people to meet the need. And yes, you need to be in the video. Oh, sure.
One of the things that excites me so much about having Lindsay as a parent partner is that she really is working in prevention as well as in the system. So being able to bring protective factors and information about adverse childhood experiences to those people that she's touching in both realms has been super exciting for our county. We try really hard to make that a continuum, and she is living proof that it's possible.
Thank you, Barb Finch, who's the director of the Kids Network in Santa Barbara County, as well as the CAPC, the Child Abuse Prevention Council, because we want to definitely make sure that we're all thinking about the primary approaches to prevention, as well as what we do when these issues come and present themselves. So stay tuned as we continue this conversation in the future. So Lindsay, I'm going to hand this back to you, and we're going to scoot on over to Ceci. And Ceci, you've been so patient. Thank you. And finally, we're with you. And again, I had dinner with Ceci last night and with her husband, and we enjoyed pizzas, and we really had a nice chat to get to know each other. I know about Ceci, but I got to know her a lot better. And I'm just thrilled that you're with us today to talk to us.
Thank you.
So in your role as a parent partner in Santa Barbara County, what have you learned to strengthen the community?
Well, I think I can answer that because it's been established to the partners, the parent leaders, is a huge key to strengthen our community. Our community wants to be successful, to be the better parents they could be, but they have to work 2 and 3 jobs, especially if there are single parents or if they live in a
cities, touristic cities like Santa Barbara, where everything is expensive, you know. So I do the cafecitos. I will explain what is cafecitos. We present and talk about the 5 protective factors. Lately, we introduce ACEs, and we explain to group of parents what these are, what this mean, because they have a very high vocabulary, you know. The professionals gave them names very fancy, and then we translate into community language. I'll try to. And when you present yourself and like them, they see you at the community, at the store, at the movie theater. They know you, they trust you. So then there is a very good connection with the community. So when you start talking to them about how to get their family straight, stronger, and how to be a better parent, so what the resources are out there, they hear you, they listen to you, they open up very easily. Uh, I have seen that is a little different when a professional talk to them, and don't get me wrong, they are very professional. We look at them with respect, with like heroes, you know. But at the same time, that title, it uh, it feels you like a little scared. They could judge you, or they could criticize you, or maybe report you to the authorities. So that is a little barrier. They connect, they ask, they listen, but it's different when you said, I'm here and I had been through this, as same as you, I'm a parent, and that is huge. And having a group, Lindsay works with us also. So it's like different. We can outreach more parents. And then during these cafecitos, we have a list of resources. So when they approach to you and ask you, you know, I need this, I was going through this, so you can refer them. I'm not work with an any agency, less these guys, but I guess that is my advantage.
So Ceci, last night we spoke a little bit and I learned a lot about your resilience but I want you to talk to the audience online and to the group here right now about how did your program participation in the working with Barb and working in the programs that you do contribute towards your resilience?
Honestly, I don't know how this worked, but it worked. You know, I was mentioning the cafecitos, and I there is 1 to 2 hours presentation. So to make the report and the connection, I share my story as everybody here. You know, I was sexually abused since I was 4 until I was 15 by my father. It was hard for me being so young and feeling responsible to protect this secret, because he threatened to kill my mother, my grandfather, to do the same to my siblings. So that makes me very cuckoo. You know, I tried to commit suicide at the age of 8. I pushed a big knife into my belly. It went like half an inch. It started hurting. It started bleeding. I got scared, and that's it. Thankfully, you know. And this create a lot of traumas or things that went into my life. I came here. I had my children. I got postpartum depression, and I was going crazy. I could see myself killing my babies with a knife. So I even turn around to look for the knife. So that's make click in my mind, and I cry for help. I went to my children's pediatricians, and I said, you know what? I need help. Send me to manicomio. I don't know the translation to that. Home where the crazy people is. Yeah. Mental health facility. Yes. So, and he looks the urgency, you know, to provide me help. So he said, come to my office. He called my husband, and he started doing research and talking to me and everything. So I went out for that office after 6 hours, and with a counseling appointment, with resources and everything. So then, following his instructions, I was looking for classes. He says, go to cooking classes, go to whatever classes offered there. Went to parenting classes, and I found CAPC, Child Abuse Prevention Council. And then I started learning about the ACEs, about the 5 protective factors, and I was understanding what was going on in my mind and my body and everything. So I said, oh, I'm from here. And then they asked me, you want to be a parent leader and share this with the community? I said, of course, why not? So I have been here, I think, forever. And, and I feel so good that I can share with the community. I went through this and I did this to come to bounce back. And that makes me feel stronger. I took the courage, the courage to share my experience with my children, with my husband. They are supporting me, and it feels great. I feel like CAPC is my medicine. You know, sharing my story is like a catharsis, pulsing demons, having therapy or some kind of sort of that. And I haven't been used antidepressives for a long time now. So that's why I'm happy to be here. I feel powerful and yeah, I'm here and I'm glad to be doing this.
So are we. So I'm just checking the room to see if there's any. Yeah, go right ahead.
We have an online question. I'm sorry.
No,
We've been
please.
waiting for a while. From one of the participants in Ventura, her name is Barbie. She wanted to know, and this is for all 4, whoever wants to answer this. One thing I haven't heard is a mention of parents' rights to details of the CAN report. I'm not sure what that is, but
Child abuse.
okay.
Okay.
Or that home checks are voluntary without a court order or warrant. Are parents' rights discussed as part of your support?
So why don't we start with Roger first, and then we can hand it down. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. So for us as part of Riverside County, yes, it is. That's one of the things that we do discuss with our parents, and we've been given that permission to do so with policy protecting us, is that we can give the parents their rights on certain things. But at the same time, when we talk about rights, we look at what we have. So in other words, whatever is covered within our department, those are the things that we give, like the right to go up the chain of command without any type of repercussion, the right to speak to your lawyer. Sometimes they don't even know they have the right to get their lawyers and have a full-on conversation. So we do what we do know, we will give them their rights. And what we don't know, we point them in the direction where they can get where they can find that out. You know, sometimes it's like legal matters where we are not, lawyers, so we're not going to give them that. So we direct them towards, like, for instance, their lawyers to find out what exactly the legality is and if there's a question about that. So that's how we function in that way.
Yes, I'd have to agree with Roger. My contract is held with CWS pays my contract to an outside service provider. So within my provider is where I do offer what the parents' rights are regarding our organization. And I can't really speak on behalf of what the county or child welfare would state regarding that, but I really do encourage, like he had said, for them to speak with their lawyers and really bring that in and let them know that they do have that option. The lawyers don't really think me too much lately because they said they've been getting an influx of clients reaching out to them, but this is something that they really need to be aware of, is that they do have rights throughout this entire their case and their process and everything that they're engaging is. They do have rights and they're allowed to have a voice and they're allowed to speak up regarding their questions and concerns, and they're allowed to be treated with respect when it comes to having those answers and questions brought back to them. And if they're not happy with the result of what they're hearing, that they can still reach out and keep going until they get a full understanding and scope of what is actually going on.
So I'm a suicide survivor as a parent partner, so I connect with parents that have mental illness. And I haven't found a better resource than the National Alliance for Mental Illness. And I really am crazy about that. Do you have, this is actually to all of you, but I have a feeling you might have a resource for those families that, like, mom has a diagnosis, child, like the whole family?
We have a partner coalition, what is called, Barbara? And we have family resource centers. We have CAM that they help with children that were abused or domestic abuse. We have those agencies down there in Santa Barbara. So we connect with them, and then they are very aware that I was working with the community. So when I send somebody, I tell them that you came to this cafecito and I gave you their number so they can deal with that. So yes, there are family centers, family resource centers, that they have even counselor comes and help with the families, and there are free or very cheap services. Yeah, we have that.
All right. So I'm looking around the room and we're at that time where we're going to start winding down. And before we do, I would like to provide an opportunity for all of us in this room, as well as our online and remote audience, to write down one or two things that you're going to take away today. Reflect on what you learned today. Write them down. And in our online audience, we're going to ask you if you could please consider maybe sharing at least one thing that you're going to do that would take away from today with us online. You can do that in the chat box really easily. And then for us here, if you could just do that, and then I'm going to have us, because I think we're small enough that we could just go around of a group and we can share that with each one of us before we leave. So I'll be quiet. We've got 1 minute. Okay, so I'm just going to pause for just a moment and check in with our Ventura County remote site. Is there anybody willing to share in the chat box a reflection of what they're going to take away from today and carry forward? Not to put any pressure on Ventura, but we're going to just check in and see if you could do that. Also in San Diego, we have folks there. If you could, oh yeah, I see that that's going to happen. And as we sit here and wait to go around the room. We're going to go around the room and do that, but here we go.
Jackie Flores says yes.
Okay. All right. So as we're waiting for our online folks, even those who are sitting at their own offices right now, we encourage you to do that as well. And so let me take the mic and I'll have, we're just going to go around, and Yolanda, why don't you start? Because I saw you writing something.
For me, it was an eye-opening to talk about fathers, male parents involved in the healing process of the family. Let's say 90% of the times is moms who are willing to participate or be in charge of that process. And for me, I mean, listening to the males in the group has been really informative. Thank you so much, and for all the work you do, and for all the knowledge that you share. And it makes me really think about my work and how to approach them. So definitely, I'm gonna make an extra effort to include that in the process. And I have a better idea, a more clear idea that how initiate that. I mean, it's gonna work on my part. It's gonna be a work on my part to do it, but yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Thank you, Yolanda.
So I just want to continue to encourage my facility to allow us to meet at times when it's convenient for our families, our clients. And I continue to push for that. Also, I want to focus on the positives in our families with an open mindset so we can continue to find out-of-the-box solutions to help them out. Those are the two.
Hi, I think for me, it's just really encouraging to hear how different counties are involving parents in a very active and meaningful and intentional way. I've been working in this field for many years, and a lot of parents are seen just as recipients of services, someone who is taking and using services or needing help. But I know from my work that it's very valuable, and we can make great change when we have parents as our partners, actively as our partners, not just on paper, not just, oh yeah, we've got a sign-in sheet that shows we've got 20 parents that came to a meeting, but the fact that our parents are really along, they're going with us along the journey of trying to make a difference in our community. So I want to thank you all for being those champions, and really appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just read the online comments. Ventura, Jackie from Ventura stated that be more intentional about requiring, encouraging the non-birth partners or dads to sign into services for public health nursing. They also commented very powerful and parent panel, and that it was insightful. Tracy LaMonica from Best Start in Lancaster said, be more aware about who is raising children. I was at a Project Fatherhood presentation yesterday. One of the fathers shared with us that he gets looks when he gets a hotel room with his daughter. Does a mother with her sons get that look? Being aware and be a part of the solution, not the problem. And Deanne, Ryrie, sorry if I'm not saying that correctly, empower parents, encourage them to let their voice be heard, their needs, concerns, and rights. And then also, Ventura also mentioned, through this training, I learned how crucial it is to involve and be flexible to both parents and how to be more transparent. Clients will feel encouraged in the services. The father lens to be applied when working with fathers, and the importance of maintaining and cheering on parents.
Excellent.
Well, honestly, I love the idea that they are trying to reach out more fathers, especially males. when I go to do my cafecitos, my husband usually goes with me, and he's the only male there. And when he look and saw another male there, he goes like, "Yeah, you got it, you are, because you came here." So, yeah. Thank you.
For me, this is Lindsay. For me, I love starting new programs. That's one of my biggest things. I'm always out there. So I am going to go find some fathers and I'm going to explore some new initiatives. So I'm really excited about that. I actually have, out of my caseload of 34, I have 7 that are single fathers. And you're absolutely correct. There's not enough resources or time for them. They're left behind a little bit. So I'm going to see if I can't change that.
This is Amber, and although I work with Roger, so I'm very familiar with the whole fatherhood piece, I did really enjoy hearing it from Shandi today, and I did learn a few things from him as well, and I look forward to using them with the fathers that I work with.
As for myself, just hearing around the room everybody's acknowledgement and all that, it excites me to continue doing what I'm doing, especially reaching out with fathers. I do work with UC Davis, going throughout the state, bringing out awareness of fatherhood, engagement, fatherhood, just awareness to agencies within my own agency and also with San Diego State University. We're developing a curriculum for the southern counties to be able to give that to our child welfare system. So it's encouraging to hear that. And so basically what I got out and I'm going to continue to do is to bring that awareness as much as I can. I do presentations and all that, but it's good to know that there are those who are hearing it and developing it because, dads are just as important. So.
All right, so this is Lisa Fraser. I'm going to close it out to share with everybody that what I came away today learning is some concrete task to do to help be more father friendly in the county of San Luis Obispo. And the one that really jumped out to me was you do not schedule anything on Monday night during football season. And I'm very clear about that. And I think that's something that that's an example of how we need to think about when we schedule these activities. And I'm going to take what I learned today and, as I shared earlier, bring it so I can introduce the exchange activity that's in the PowerPoint with our family advocates. So it gets them involved to not just say it, be a check-off list about the fathers, but how do they concretely go into their day-to-day work and practice the father-friendly approach that I know we all want to do better by, but sometimes you just have to sit down as a group and learn how to do that. So I see that there's someone from in our online community. Anything you want to share on that end?
Deanne says, thank you so much. I'm grateful for learning more about how to strengthen the family.
Thank you. So with that said, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you to our parent partners. You rock, and you really. Please take time to fill out your evaluations and on our remote site and online community. I know that others have done it now, and we look forward to, our next slide. I just want to go to our next learning community to make everybody aware of our next learning community. Thank you, Lydia. We are going to have it on May 14th. You can all come in and beam in online. We're really excited to bring together Ventura and Santa Barbara County, our child abuse prevention teams, and have a focus on what we're building in our 3 counties or not just our 3 counties, but also in Southern California. When we say child abuse prevention planning teams, what does that mean? There's a group of us all working together to build this process. And it's going to be unique to each county, and we're going to be showcasing that a little bit and sharing that, and I'm guaranteeing you with the conversation today is going to influence those plans as we sit. So thank you. Is that the last slide? And I thought, help me grow your network. Please include and then promote this with everybody that you can. I know we say to ourselves how valuable it is, and we really depend on our audience to help share this. It will be, and I think in the next slide, I don't know if it is the next slide, go into your news. You can get a newsletter from Strategies, enroll for trainings, other communities. We also will have, this will be a YouTube link, and Natalie, who is going to send out a reminder to everybody to go into that link if you want to share it and with other folks, because I'm going to be doing that with my child abuse prevention planning team. I'm going to show exactly what we talked about with the parent panel today, because I think they can really gain a lot of knowledge from that. So, all right. And just so you know, we're doing our part to let you know how we're doing with the learning communities to make them better. And we know that folks are telling us that they value this process. And so your surveying and your evaluations are very important so we can continue to improve. And thank you. And stay connected. And